Shalom, my friend. Today I want to talk about Psalm 83, specifically the war against Israel and the Jewish people in Psalm 83. But first, remember, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. It really helps. So, Psalm 83. Well, few passages in the Bible are as controversial as Psalm 83. The psalm speaks of a war against Israel led by a coalition of her worst enemies. People have interpreted this short psalm as a prophetic plea by Asaph to God for protection in a time of conflict. The war of Psalm 83 has been placed before the rapture, during the tribulation, by various Bible teachers and scholars. Psalm 83 speaks of a conflict, and it is neither before the rapture nor during the tribulation, yet it is raging right now. The Psalm 83 war is here, and it is not what you think. So stay with me. Psalm 83 was written by Asaph, who wrote Psalm 73 through 83, a contemporary of King David. It describes in just 18 verses a desperate plea to the Lord by Asaph to destroy the enemies of Israel who wanted to wipe Israel off the map completely. As I quote, they have said, "Let's come and let us wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel be remembered no more." That's verse 4. The list of the 10 enemy nations is given later in the psalm. Still, Asaph tells God that they conspire against your treasured ones. That's verse 3. These nations correspond to 10 modern nations that are peripheral neighbors surrounding the tiny sliver of land that Israel currently is. The modern nations are Jordan, Edom, Moab, and Ammon, Saudi Arabia, the Ishmaelites, Egypt, the Agarenes and Amalek, Lebanon, Gebal and Tyre, Gaza Strip, Philistia, Iraq, Assyria, and Syria, also Assyria, as you see on the map. When reviewing history, several of these countries or people groups have gone after Israel, some more than once, and at different levels of intensity and time of history. However, as Asaph claims, the 10 countries have never formed a confederation to go after Israel, all 10 at once. So people think it must be a future war. And as we get closer and closer to the final chapter of recorded biblical history and are inching our way into the tribulation, people think it's coming. I still firmly believe that the rapture of the saints, the church, as a fulfillment of the Feast of Trumpets, will occur before the tribulation. But when is the Psalm 83 war supposed to take place then? Let's assume that these 10 modern countries decided to team up against tiny Israel. This poses an immediate problem since Egypt has been officially at peace with Israel since 1979, when Anwar el-Sadat and Menachem Begin signed the peace treaty at the White House under President Jimmy Carter. Additionally, Jordan has also been at peace with Israel since 1994, when King Hussein and Yitzhak Rabin met again at the White House under President Bill Clinton. While not every Egyptian or Jordanian might share the peaceful behavior of their leaders, the peace treaties still hold. Some Bible teacher will look at Zechariah 12:3, describing an attack on Jerusalem when all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it, the whole world. This indicates that in the end times, the entire world will turn its back on Israel. And we are seeing an increase in international hatred as we speak. We're getting there. The problem here is that Zechariah tells us that the whole world will go against Israel, not just a 10-nation confederacy. Sticking to the text and only looking at those 10 nations, it would seem that the best interpretation of that list would be that Asaph is crying out to the Lord, and the list of the 10 enemies is a literary device to describe his despair. These people groups pretty much surrounded Israel geographically. It might have been the extent of Asaph's knowledge of the world around him at the time. It is akin to someone going through a very difficult time, being hit from several different angles simultaneously, and saying, and I quote, "The whole world is against me," close quote, as a euphemism to describe that everywhere they look, trouble is coming. So this might very possibly be what Asaph was doing. Asaph possibly cried out to God about all the countries he knew that were conspiring to destroy Israel. This does not eliminate the real threats against Israel that are currently coming from some of those modern nations. That's not going away. Yet there is another aspect of the Psalm 83 war that many people overlook as they're trying to reconcile an attack from the various countries and place the whole thing, trying to properly place it on the timeline of before, after the rapture, or during the tribulation, and nobody can agree. I would suggest that the war of Psalm 83 is already happening from verse 3 to 5. And I quote, "They make shrewd plans against your people and conspire together against your treasured ones. They have said, 'Come and let us wipe them out as a nation, and the name of Israel is remembered no more.' For they have conspired together with one mind. Against you they make a covenant." The Psalm 83 war is simply a war against the Jews. It is a war fought by Satan and his posse. Each battle is an act of anti-Semitism coming from the enemy, subcontracting his age-old hatred of God's chosen people. Asaph pleads with God to stop Israel's enemies, and he also understands that hatred for Israel equates to contempt for the God of Israel. Against you they make a covenant, did he say in verse 5. But Asaph trusts God, who defeated anti-Semitism in the past, to defeat it again and again. That's verse 9 through 12. The Psalm 83 war is going on right now, full speed ahead, and on a global scale. Jewish people are increasingly feeling the danger for their lives. The bottom line is that those who hate God want to hurt those he loves. It is often more successful to hurt someone's loved ones than that very person. In the case of God, it is a bit different because he is God. But he clearly calls the Jewish people the apple of his eye in Zechariah 2:8. The war against the Jews has been going on for centuries, led by Satan, who wants to prevent Israel from calling Yeshua back as the long-awaited Messiah, as we read in Zechariah 12:10. Satan has won many battles, but he will never, ever win the war, as we can read in Jeremiah 31:35 through 37. The war against the Jews is a real war, but it is also a spiritual battle. All Christians should be enlisted to fight that battle against the enemy of Israel. Pray, educate yourself, and educate others about my people, and speak up whenever you can expose the enemy's lies. We are on God's side, and it is well overdue for all Christians to form a coalition of truth and conspire against Satan. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, and as always, be blessed.